I guess that's like the reality of this business is that you gotta adapt, and there's never like a no, we're not doing it. Like, how's that? Like, how do you navigate that, and how do you what kind of personality you have to be able to adapt to these kind of things?
Yeah,
That's not
well,
easy.
it's interesting because bringing that up. So obviously, the what you're bringing up, I think there's a very true thing where it's like it's very hard to say no, and I think everyone I know walks the a line differently. I don't think there's a right answer as to when you say no or when you don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, because everyone walks the path differently.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are much more inclined to say no or like be like, hey, no, I'm not going to do this. Some people are much more inclined to say, oh yeah, yeah, I'll make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I do feel that as the higher up you go, as far as like you're producing or directing or or even DPing something, I think sometimes the question is asked a lot of how far are you willing to go to keep this project going, because ridiculous questions are always asked and ridiculous timelines are expected and I mean everything's ridiculous, and it trickles down because everyone ends up suffering per se for it. But yeah, I don't even think I have a good answer, honestly. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
like I think everyone just navigates it differently.
Yeah.
It's very stressful. I've personally found that the best way to deal with it is I like to be constantly on a lighter note with things. I like to kind of laugh things off and try to seem like it doesn't affect me, even though I might be stressing out
Mm-hmm.
heavily internally. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's an interesting job, production at that level. It's weird because like sometimes it's like, yeah, you say no, then you just might pass up on an opportunity. Or if you're on the job and you say no, I can't do this, this just doesn't work. The sad thing is that someone else is willing to do it probably,
Exactly. Yeah.
so you might just not lose an opportunity. And maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe like, okay, I don't want to work with these people if they're gonna force me to do this or they're asking me this of me. But it's that's a personal. I mean, that's up to you. I mean, you have to draw a line
Mm-hmm.
of what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. Constantly, it's a hard field. And like I said, I don't have a good answer for as to like how to navigate it.
Yeah, I feel like it's so like I have a colleague of mine who I'm planning to bring on the podcast, but he
Yeah.
worked on in the stunt department
Yeah.
and on Joker, and he did Sopranos, the new one that's coming out,
Yeah.
and like I've never like worked on a big set like that, and like there's even so they tell everybody never run,
Yeah.
right? Never run on set because it just creates anxiety. It just feels like somebody is not doing something right. Somebody is over,
Totally.
and
Yeah.
it's just not a good look. It's not like image. It just creates bad atmosphere,
Totally.
and that's the kind of world we work in, really. And um, you hear things like, for example, if I ask you to do something, it's like, oh, hey, we changing this to that, and you're like, oh, just
Yeah.
that, oh, I might not hire you next time because I don't want
Yeah.
to see you roll your eyes. I don't want to see your frustration
Yeah.
because I just don't want to deal with that. It's difficult. It's annoying for everybody. We gotta just do it,
Yeah.
right?
A big part of this field is image, man. Like you
Yeah.
gotta. I always tell, I guess, the younger folk or whoever's going in, it's like, hey, you need to do a good job, but maybe more importantly, maybe not, you need to look good doing a
Mm.
good job. You need to make it seem like this is cool, because you need to just ultimately you need to somehow inspire confidence in your own way, because everyone's stressed.
Yeah.
Like everyone is anxious. That's the reality, especially on like a day with big expectations. Probably 90% of the crew is anxious about doing this because they're not sure it's going to work. Now, I found good crew is very good at hiding that they're anxious and just seeming like, oh yeah, this is fine, even though on the inside they might be like, I don't know if this is going to work, like this could be terrible. But it's Set. To be honest, set's a bunch of sharks, man. Like
A bunch
people
of
on set are a
sharks,
bunch of sharks.
yeah.
Everyone's looking for like the weak one. Everyone's looking for like, and maybe not. This is not the best way to describe it. It's like everyone is very hyper aware as to how a person is reacting to a
Do you think it's
situation.
because set people have a lot of egos?
Yeah, no, I mean, some people have. You have. I believe you have to have an ego to work in this. Really, that doesn't mean you have to be like egotistical or be like a dick or an asshole to people, but you have to have a good amount of self confidence if you want to work in this field. You have to be able to believe in what you're doing and push for what you want to do. I mean, obviously, there's times when you need to be stern and you need to, and there's times when you need to, really just say this is how it needs to be. And I don't know, but then sometimes there's also not. So I don't know. It's like I said, it's always like a weird. There's not a correct way necessarily. It's like everyone does things a little bit differently. But as far as like looking, no running. Yeah, you need to. You can't show that you're freaking out. I think if you show that you're freaking out is when.
Right.
Because I've found that ultimately, and this is in my experience, because I think I've never been one to freak out on set, but I think what I've realized though is that whether or not, sometimes, listen, as a DP, sometimes I shoot something that looks like shit, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm shooting it, and I'm like, yep, this looks pretty terrible. Yeah, I did a bad job. Now, I'm bummed because we have to sit and look at this image for probably like the next hour, but you can't show that. And I found that the people that are hiring me, producing directors, as long as I don't seem to show that I think this looks not amazing, they don't seem to realize either that it's not amazing.
But here's the thing. Like, and I'm curious. I don't have an answer neither. What if a director relies on you saying that, hey, I don't think this looks good because of this and that. Should we change something? I think we should change something.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that's a part of being a good DP?
Yeah, totally. I mean,
Me.
Obviously, oh, come on. You were doing so good. So I guess just to put the situation. So let's say I'm shooting something. I set up a frame. We were 30 minutes into it and it doesn't look good. And we're already kind of late. And the director comes up and says, it doesn't look good. I mean, that's what we call a number one stressful situation. Because like that's probably the top stressful situation where you're like, or director or client, agency, producer says, this doesn't. Oh yeah, I mean, how do we change this? This doesn't look right. That's probably the most stressful situation a DP is ever in, of being like, okay, time to change things. And I found personally navigating it is that you just need to make a decision. And obviously you rely on your expertise, you rely on your experience, you're relying on your, this is the part where I guess the skill of cinematographer comes through. It's like, yes, you rely on your skills to try to see what is the correct decision here, but you need to make a decision. That's the other part of, you just need to seem confident, and then obviously it's a talking game. You need to be able to talk your way out of it, kind of like, just talk and make it seem that, obviously maybe it is your fault, but you need to, it's the whole game is like about talking. You need to talk away, like, this doesn't look, I think this is the problem. So why don't we do this differently? You just need to obviously look like you have solutions. And even if you don't, and you need to rely on your experience and your expertise to try to make it better, or at least change it up enough so that the director, the client, whoever is happy with it as well. And I mean, and ideally you're happy with it, honestly.
Well, that's, I guess, my thing here,
ideally,
right? Like, if it's all collaborative, like, I understand, like, you feel like most of the jobs, you do is like, you feel like you're hired. As far as they're happy, you're fine. But I'm talking about the work that you want to put on your resume, the work that you want to put on your portfolio. Do you try to achieve?
I see. Don't get me wrong. I guess I'm speaking more in terms of maybe commercial work, because honestly, that's probably the majority of what I do. Now, in the situation on a collaborative narrative, I think my approach, and I don't do too much narrative. I wish I would do more, but I don't do too much. But in my approach, what I've done narrative, I think my approach is slightly different. I'm looking for what I think gets the story across, and I do feel like it's, with the directors I worked with narratively, it's been a collaborative effort. Like, okay, I think this looks good. I think this looks better because I think this tells a story.
So there's no surprises, basically.
Obviously there's, with set, there's set, but like, you know, the director might disagree with you, you know, but ultimately it is more of a collaborative, and you're going. So now, obviously, that's different from commercials where, you know, I mean, it's I feel like on a commercial job, generally, it's no, you're hired to make this look good,
Right.
versus you're here to collaborate with people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a different approach, at least for me, when it comes to commercial work. You know.